Today on the podcast, I'm talking with Greg from the Life After Losing YouTube channel. Greg had gastric bypass 8 years ago and has been successfully maintaining an almost 200-pound weight loss ever since. We touch on some unique aspects of Greg's journey, including how he dealt with body dysmorphia after losing weight, the transition from losing weight to building muscle, and even what to look for in a plastic surgeon when considering skin removal. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I know you will as well. If you'd like to support the show, you can share this episode with a friend or on social media, and leave a positive review wherever you're watching or listening. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. So, Greg, welcome to Keeping It Off.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It was great kind of discovering your story. You've shared a lot of your journey on YouTube and on Instagram, and even the name of your channel and your handle is Life After Losing, and I felt like that was a great fit for this podcast and what I'm trying to do. So I'm really excited to talk today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Before we get to life after losing, let's go back to life before losing. Talk a little bit about the earliest part of your journey, kind of before you had weight loss surgery and you started that process.
Yeah, I was like an obese kid. And I think even looking at baby pictures, I was always, like overweight as even a baby. You have all the issues with growing up as an overweight kid, the bullying, the singling out from different things, and going into from a kid to a teenager to finally being in my 20s. And, I had my circle of friends. I, went out and did normal things that 20-year-olds do, but always a little bit more reserved than probably many, because I've always had it in my head, that I was different. And I think that when you're approaching 400 pounds in your 20s, there's a lot of judgment that comes with that, even just walking into a room. But then when I turned 30, I started thinking about it more. Just the fact that you're getting older, and it's like, can your body support 400 pounds, like forever? I started having sleep apnea in my 30s. That was, another thing too, just like wake up in the middle of the night, like gasping for air. And, there were signs that were telling me that it wasn't good. My mother, she passed away when she was 52. And so I was probably 32 or something like that at the time. And that was kind of a wake-up call for me. And my mother wasn't really like morbidly obese. She was like overweight, but she wasn't morbidly obese. Just the fact that she had like undiagnosed and untreated high blood pressure, and she just thought it was like had headaches and migraines, and it was just all related to blood pressure. And she eventually had a massive stroke because of that. So that was kind of the first wake-up call at 32. And so at that time is when I joined a gym. And now through my 20s, I would work out too, and I would always try to lose weight. And I think probably my lowest weight was, like probably 315 pounds or something like that was probably my lowest weight around that time. And so that by the time I was 32, that weight crept back up to 400, or at least the high threes, like 390, around that time, around that range. So after my mom passed away, I was like, okay, I need to get more serious about this. Joined the gym again, and for years I worked out, tried to eat as healthy as I possibly could. Lost, I think I got down to like the lowest was like probably 275 or 280, around that range. My goal was always to be like under 250. I might have been like 290 for like a month or two, and then it started going back up again. It made me pissed off at the fact that I've took all these years of my life and my time to try to lose this weight, and then now the weight is starting to creep back up again. It's like, okay, well, how much more working out do I have to do? How much less food do I have to eat, to get, down to this under 250? And it just made me like so like defeated that I was kind of like, well, because if this is going to be my life forever, to try to even just get down to 290, like this isn't even where I need to be. Like, so I think I just after 2 years, I just kind of gave up. I was like, I just can't spend every single day of my life in the gym and not living my life. There were things that, you miss out on, and there's things that, that I just didn't do because my time was taken up working out. And I would go at like 4:30 in the morning before work, take a shower at the gym, get dressed, go to work. And then after work, I would probably go again, just because I wanted to get this weight off. And lucky that I'm in a position where I don't have kids. So I didn't have to worry about leaving somebody stuck with kids at home while I'm, taking all this time for myself. But, eventually it was just kind of, I just gave up on it because it was just too much time and too much effort to even just maintain obesity at that point. It wasn't morbid obesity, but I'm like trying to maintain just obesity after years of hard work.
Real quick, I'm
Yeah.
curious, like at that part of your journey, so you'd been, just sounds like fighting really hard
Hmm.
to just lose this weight and to, I guess what was your was it a number on the scale that you were chasing, or was it like a particular way to live, or what in your mind were you trying to like fight for?
My hope was that, I would get to a point where, you always hear that when you get to certain weights, your body like will stay there, at a certain point.
Hmm.
And then you have these set points or whatever that you'll hit and your body will like remain at that point. I'm just like, okay, well, what's my set point at this point? Is it like 350 pounds? Because that's not like, if it was 250, then fine, like that would be okay. But, the fact that just it's hard. You can ask anybody at this time, but I worked my ass off during this time, and it put in this much effort when I see people around me not putting in any effort and they're thin. That's very just demoralizing. Like my goal was always to be like you said, under 250, and when you put in so much work and you still can't get there, it's just, and you see other people doing it easily, it's just kind of made me give up.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I totally relate to that. You just kind of resign yourself to like, I guess this is my life.
This is it.
And
Yep,
yeah.
exactly.
So obviously that wasn't just your life. You found a way around that. So talk about what was the next step after you were, kind of had resigned yourself to being this overweight person. What made it change?
Oh, so again, the age thing is always in the back of my head, like the whole time. So, I live my life like normal, going out with friends, going on vacations, things like that. You have to worry about getting in a plane seat, like doing, things like that are always in your head. And then we went to Niagara Falls with some friends, and I think I was at my heaviest weight probably at that point. I was probably at the 420 range at that point. And I remember seeing pictures of myself during that time, and I just looked unhealthy. Like I wasn't just big. Like I had pictures from when I was in my 20s, like in the high threes or, mid threes. And I still looked healthy, but big. And then I saw these pictures when I'm like 35 and I just looked horrible. Just my skin was red and, like, it just looked like bloated almost, like you're retaining water. Like there's just a lot of like things that I just was like, it's coming, like I could tell that I'm not, like I didn't have youth on my side at that at that point anymore. And so I was like, I need to do something about it. So I looked into gastric bypass. I actually work for a healthcare system. And so they offer that to their employees. So all different kinds, like it does not just necessarily gastric bypass, but any type of like weight loss, either doing it naturally that you can go to nutritionists and talk to dietitians and, things like that, or you can go a surgical route as well. And so I took the classes and, to kind of get more information about it. So I was probably like I was probably 35 around that age, 36. And so even after that class, I was like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I don't want something that's, I'm like, I'm only 36, I can do it myself. Like I'm just gonna do it myself again. So I tried again, and it was just like a year. I tried it for that time. I went from like 420 to like 380 or something like that. I was just kind of like burnt. I started getting burnt out again. And so I went back and, talked to um, the weight loss management clinic again, and um, decided that, surgery was probably the right path for me at that point, because I didn't want to keep doing it again. Like, I didn't want to like be 50 by the time I finally figured it out and did it. I wanted to enjoy, the youth that I had left. And so I talked to them, and it was still a year, probably from the time I originally talked to them before I actually had the procedure itself. And so I was back up to 395 or something like that by the time I did the original discussion with the surgeon. And they wanted me to lose 25 pounds, before I had the procedure, and see if I could follow a diet. I think they'd try to test you, I think, to see if you could follow like a diet plan from the nutritionist, and see if you can do it, at all. And then so I did, and I lost the 25 pounds. I was scheduled for, the surgery in like 2017. It was tough to make the decision. Like, I didn't want to. Like, even now, there is a part of me that feels, and it's sad because I don't think about it this way for anybody else except for myself. But I do think that I did fail a little bit at it, just when it comes to weight loss, just because I had to have surgery at all. Like, I
Mm.
wish I didn't have to do it at all, but I did. And it's, just a part of my journey, and it's just part of what I had to do. I don't have any regrets about it now. I just wish that I was able to have done it without having the procedure.
Yeah, I resonate with that because I had, like you had previously lost weight without surgery, and I felt like at a basic level, the idea of calories in, calories out is it's basic, kind of physics. Like, it does
Yes.
work. If you burn more calories than you consume, then you will lose weight. And there's a basic law there that feels like, well, I should be able to get a handle on this. I should be able to, get this to work. It seems like you said, it seems to, you compare yourself with others. It feels like it works for other people. Why can't it work for me? I guess, because this podcast is not just about bariatric surgery. It's also, there are other people that have been on the podcast and will be on the podcast that have done different methods, whether that's diet and exercise, or some of the medications, the GLP-1s and things like that. But bariatric surgery at the end of the day is just a tool, because we know that people do regain weight after surgery. It's not a magic fix. You eventually decide to have surgery, and just talk a
Mhm.
little bit more about like that acceptance for you, that like this is the method that I'm gonna that might work for me. Like, was that a hard process to go through, or what, or was it you at that point in your life you were just like, this is my only option?
Both. I definitely felt at that point it was my only option, but I also, I think, until the end, I just think that it was just more, I was embarrassed that I had to have it done at all. I think that was like the hard part for me, is just accepting that that was my path. God, looking back now, I was like, I would have did it at 25 if I knew then what I know now. I just think that at some point we need to all just kind of accept the tools that are out there for us, and not judge ourselves or anybody else for what tools they need to get them to a point of being a healthy weight, or even just feeling good about themselves. Like, gastric bypass or any type of weight loss surgery at the time is kind of almost like how GLP-1s are treated now, where people are just like, oh, it's the easy way out. It's just you're gonna stop taking it and you're gonna gain all your weight back. And like, it's there's so much judgment on people who are taking GLP-1s right now. If that was an option at the time in 2017, I would have tried it. Um, so I have no judgment for anybody who's going to try something to make themselves better physically, or even just, um, in regards to their health or their physical appearance. I
Hmm.
know a lot of people are very judgy too when it comes to people caring about their physical appearance. They're like, oh, well, you need to do it for your health. You need to just focus on your health. And it's kind of like, why? There's so many other things that in your life can benefit. It's not just necessarily your health. Doors open, for you. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that career opportunities are better, if you're a healthy weight. Your options for relationships are better if you're a healthy weight. That's just the reality. Um, I think that we need to stop judging people, for how they get to that point. Like you said, it's just a tool, and there's many different tools, and whatever it takes to get, to get you to a place of being happy and feeling good about yourself.
So you ended up having the gastric bypass. Was that the only surgery that you considered? Was there other options that you kind of considered at the time?
At the time, like when I talked to the surgeon, we talked about, the sleeve or bypass, and he was he said he would do either one that I wanted. He wanted me to understand, that he's not trying to tell me to take whatever, certain routes. But he said that just statistically, people who have gastric bypass do better long term than people who do have sleeve. He also said, males do better long term, with gastric bypass. And I don't even know what the rate it was. It was like 40% of people who have sleeve keep it off long term, and like 60% of bypass patients keep it off long term. All right, 60% sounds better than 40, so I'll try it, and so that's how I decided on it.
Going into your bypass surgery, what would you say your expectations were? What were you expecting to get out of it? And then how was that, how did that match up to reality after you actually had the surgery?
Well, in the beginning, I was expecting to have a lot of pain and nausea and, things that you hear that people have when they have complications with it. I was expecting a lot of that, especially in the beginning. But the reality was, after 2 weeks, I couldn't even tell that I had gastric bypass, other than the fact that I couldn't intake a lot of food. I didn't really have any pain. In the beginning, I think I had anti-nausea pills and, things like that they give you for the first month. And so I didn't really experience anything like that. And by the time, you get through that whole liquids and then soft foods and, by the time you get through that whole process, by the time I started getting to solid foods, it was like I didn't even couldn't even tell that I really had the procedure, other than sugar didn't do well with me. And I'm glad I experienced that in the beginning, that of getting sick from eating sugar, because it kind of made me want to avoid it as much as possible. Also, like, you think that when you're not eating that you're going to miss it for some reason, and then I didn't even really miss it at all. And I think that's also probably a chemical component of the gastric bypass, is I didn't really have those hunger like triggers that I thought I would probably have. And, food, like the foods that I used to think that were good, it just tasted completely different. It's so weird, like how a surgery that's on your stomach and your intestinal tract kind of area is like making your mind think differently and making food taste different. That was none of the stuff that I ever expected to happen. I just thought it was strictly going to be like a restriction type of thing. Like, you're going to get to a certain point, you're not going to be able to eat a lot and you're just going to not eat. But it just like changes the way you think about food and how you feel about it.
So did you at any point experience any regret after surgery? Like, what did I just do to myself? Or was it basically like after surgery and a little bit of the healing process, you basically were like, nope, this is the new normal and smooth sailing?
Like none, zero. I was so angry at being overweight and having my youth taken from me. I still feel that way now. Like, I still feel like my youth was taken away from me. I was so angry at that I allowed that to even happen, that I never had a regret about surgery. The only regret I ever had was that I didn't do it when I was in my 20s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, makes sense. So you have the surgery and the weight starts coming off. So just kind of walk through kind of your story after that.
Yeah, so the weight came off. It came off slow, but a lot of it was because I talked to my surgeon. And in the beginning, I think I lost like 90 pounds like pretty quickly. So I had it in August of 2017. And then by December, by Christmas time, I was probably almost 90 pounds down. And, you know, it sounded great, but the doctor said it was a little bit, he said he wanted me to slow it down and a little bit. So he wanted me to eat more. Now, this was before I ever decided to like start working out or anything like that. And he was like, because it was my plan to start working out. And he says, if you're going to work out, he's like, you need to eat more. Like that, this is just, you can't just live on protein shakes and water. This just doesn't work, you know? So I had to start eating more. And from that point, it took me another year plus, 13, 14 months or to lose another 100 pounds. The number one thing in the whole process isn't a number on a scale. I never lost weight that quickly. So you're kind of excited about it. And yeah, you get to buy new clothes, even though it's kind of like angry that I had to buy that much clothes, because it's like expensive, and
Mhm.
and then you see like, okay, well, shoot, if I lost 90 pounds in 4 months, like imagine I could lose another 100 pounds by summer. Like I'll be thin, it's not about the speed or the number on the scale. At the end of the day, it's really about getting to a healthy weight in a healthy way. You don't want to just starve yourself thin. And I was concerned about losing muscle and, you know, having like a lot of loose skin. Like that was like another, thing that I was really concerned about. But it wasn't the number one concern. I always knew that being healthy is more important than having, loose skin. That was really, if I was never able to have, that have it taken off, like I still would have chosen to have gastric bypass. None of it wouldn't have really mattered or made a huge difference in my life. It was just, a bonus, but I would never say to anybody to not have gastric bypass because of loose skin. That's just crazy.
You've been open about body dysmorphia, kind of your experience with that. At what point in your journey did that sort of pop up, and what was your experience with that?
In 2019 is when I started getting close to my goal weight. Now, my goal weight has always been like probably higher than what the normal, what did the BMI chart say? I should probably weigh 180, 190 pounds or something I'm 6 foot tall. So I think it's like the max is supposed to be 190. Like I'm at the lowest I've ever been right now. And I'm like 215. And probably throughout most of the process, I was probably 220, between 215 and 220 the whole time. When I got down to that point, I think that even to lose 200 pounds in 2 years, some people might do it faster, but it's such a huge shock to your body and your brain. And looking at yourself is almost shocking sometimes because you're just so different than what you were. For that whole time, for probably most of the 2 years, I felt that I looked the same. And it was one morning I woke up and I was brushing my teeth and I looked in the mirror and I finally noticed that I looked like a different person. Like I didn't recognize the person that was looking back at me. Like my face does not even look remotely the same. I was just like, holy, like I'm not even the same person anymore. And so I got done brushing my teeth. I went to go get dressed, and it's weird, and it's so hard to explain. I don't think that unless you experience it, you won't understand. And I didn't understand it either until it happened to me. But I went into the bedroom, went to go get dressed, and it was like that person was gone. Like it was like now I'm looking at the same person again, like the old version. It's like I still saw me again. And since that point, it's almost like something in your brain where you're like trying to see the new version of yourself again. I you become almost like obsessed with it. Like you want to lose more weight, or you want to, I would literally change my clothes probably like 4 times, like before I'd leave the house in the morning, just because I was like, nope, I look fat, and this one look fat, and this one look fat, and this, like, and I would try and get whatever that made me look, that I felt I looked the thinnest in. Like, that's like, I would be obsessed with it. And because it was like almost like trying to get a glimpse of the new, your new self. Like, and it was hard. It took a couple years to, like, there's, when I walk into my building at work, there's this glass corridor that we have to walk down, and the glass is not perfect. So it like distorts you as you like walk past it. So every time I walk past it, it made you look huge. Like you just looked huge through this glass. So
Like a
every
funhouse mirror or
morning,
something.
what? Yeah, it's like a funhouse mirror, like, but it's like glass. And so I would, get ready for work in the morning, think I look all right, and then go to work, and then you'd walk past this glass, and you're like, I look the same. Like all this work and effort is like pointless. I don't look any different, And even though it's like the glass that's making you look like that, it's like you're viewing. It's like I was viewing my old self every single morning for such a long time, and no matter what anybody says to you, it doesn't change how you see yourself. And the only time I could see difference is when you take a side by side photo and you put the old one and next to a new one, and you're like, okay, I can see it now. And I hate the fact that I even needed that to, because it seems like in the beginning, and I would think this of somebody too, that you're so full of yourself, like taking all these selfies, like get over yourself, but it's like it was so helpful to me to like see myself in a different way than what I thought I was. And I think viewing those photos next to the old ones was kind of like, I don't know, it was just such a relief in a way that um that finally, something that I did worked, and I did look, like, I don't know, like I did look different than what I saw in the mirror or what I saw on the glass going to work, in the morning. And yeah, it was helpful for me,
Mm.
even though, I mean, I don't do it now.
No, I think that's actually really a cool insight, because I think when a lot of people, at least when I think of before and after photos, I think a lot about how they're for other people. Like we make
Hmm.
them almost to show off and be like, look what I
Yeah,
did, and it's sort of,
exactly.
and it's showing the world like this is cool. But it's a powerful thing when it's for yourself, and you can
Yeah,
you have that evidence of like, no, this is actually working. The stuff that I'm doing, the sacrifices I'm making, the journey that I'm on is actually worth it. I'm actually proud
yeah.
of my progress. That's
It's
really
funny,
cool.
like I used to think that too. It's like, these people are so full of themselves with these freaking selfies and stuff like that. But I'm like, now when I see them, I just like, I hit like on every single one, because I'm like, I understand exactly what they're doing and what they're going through. And you know what? If they need some validation, good. Like, we didn't get validation our whole lives. Like, I'm totally fine with validating somebody now, no matter what. If you lose 10 pounds and you're happy about it, I'm happy for you. That's how I feel about it now. I think when you grow up your whole life, or you go most of your life, even if, I don't care if you've been overweight for 5 years, like when you start feeling good about yourself, I just think that that's powerful. And I think I think we all need that, at some point.
No, absolutely. So I want to talk about, you not only had a weight loss journey, you had a fitness and health journey after that. So I guess, what, if you're thinking chronologically, after you said you took about 2 years to lose weight,
Mhm.
what did it look like when you started focusing more on, you know, strength training or building muscle, building fitness? What did that journey look like for you?
The strength training like happened probably it's 2017, probably towards the summer of 2018. So I took almost a year off, like just a year of just learning how to eat, learning how to just live with gastric bypass. I'll be honest, I think that a lot of emphasis, a lot of people don't emphasize enough how important it is to relearn how to eat and how to live with that new normal. And I think if you jump into weight training or a very like vigorous like fitness routine too soon, I think that you kind of derail the things that you need to learn, because you eat differently when you're strength training than when you're just focusing on losing weight and learning how to live with your new norm. I just think that the strength training part of it, it requires a lot more food. It requires a lot more, you're doing things for energy, you're doing things for, to build muscle or to not lose muscle, and I just think that people need to give themselves a little bit more time between having the surgery before they start going too crazy with weights and vigorous fitness routines, because you're still losing weight. Like you're going to lose weight, you know, until you'll probably lose weight for a good 18 months or so. And just from the gastric bypass alone, or any type of, weight loss surgery procedure, that I just think you need to focus on that as much as possible in the beginning, than trying to add something new in there now. Now you're trying to eat differently again. It's just too much in the beginning. I think that's how a lot of people can kind of fail at gastric bypass or any type of weight loss procedure, is because, you go from eating whatever you want before you have the procedure, then you go to eating very restricted amounts, and you're not, you're avoiding sugar and you're avoiding things that make you sick, and you're learning a different way then. And now you're throwing in weight training, which you have to eat a whole lot more again for. And again, you're eating different things. You're focusing on proteins and, things that are going to help you maintain muscle and things like that. And if you decide that strength training and weight training isn't for you, now you're used to a diet that's for people who are strength training. And you're now gotten your stomach used to eating high amounts of protein and meat and this and that. And I think you almost kind of set yourself up for failure. You have to make sure that you know the basics and that they become such a part of you that it'll just become like a second nature. I think once it becomes second nature to you how to eat, then you move into strength training, because then you'll understand better. If you decide that you're not going to strength train or you don't want to do this anymore, you'll understand better what you need to do to go back to that original diet that you learned right after gastric bypass.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I'm curious if there was a sort of a clear period of losing for you, and then was it a difficult process to, especially like your relationship with the scale, right? Because it's always been, I'm assuming you want the number to go lower, 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 but then at some point you're trying to build muscle, you're trying to, strength train, and you're eating more. What was that process like to say, now I have a different goal than just getting the number on the scale to go lower?
Yeah, you said it perfectly. Like that's exactly why I think that people just need to focus on the gastric bypass and learning how to eat. Because the reason why it took me the full 2 years is because, a year later, I was doing strength training, and that does mess with the scale. Like, even to this day, the scale fluctuates for me. It can fluctuate 8 pounds in a day. That's water retention. That's, like whatever the case is, like the scale is never linear. It's always up and down. And it's been like that since I started weight training. And I think that people need to understand that weight training it makes your weight fluctuate. The end result will be lower. Like if that's what your goal is. I think I started weight training, I was probably 275 pounds or something like that. So I still had a ways to go before I got down to the 215 that I wanted to be. But that, 50, 60 pounds, is take a lot longer to lose, because you're trying to also build muscle at the same time. And your body is responding to, it's retaining water, and your body also kind of knows you're kind of starving it at the same time too. And you're like trying to counteract it by like eating more protein and drinking protein shakes and things like that. But your body has gone through a lot of shock from the surgery to begin with, and then all of a sudden you're adding something new that, I mean, let's be honest, most of us probably never did that before we had gastric bypass. And so to throw that in is a big shock to your body. And I think that once you understand your body a little bit more and you understand food more, it becomes easier, and that relationship with the scale becomes easier because you'll understand that it's a result of lifting weights and being swollen and, things like that than it is overeating. It took a little bit of time too, like to get used to that. Like I haven't lifted weights in probably a couple months at this point now. I usually stick to cardio, but I am going to get back into it, probably starting next week. It's the same for me too. Like right now, I weighed myself today and I'm 217, but I know that when I start lifting weights next week, that scale is going to go up. I'll probably be 224 by the end of the week. Like it just depends on how my muscles react and how much water they decide to retain. You'll feel like you're putting in all this effort, and then but the scale is going up. So you just have to understand that that's just a part of weight training. And then the following week I'll be like 213. Like so it's just like once the water goes away, it's like it kind of will go back down. But that week of weighing yourself could be like, what am I doing? Like I need to just go back to running on the treadmill and just doing cardio because my weight's going higher. So I think that, yeah, people just need the relationship with the scale, to me, that's another tool. It's good to keep yourself accountable by it, but you have to take the numbers that you're getting from it. It doesn't determine your whole life like that. If I weigh myself next week and it's 220 something pounds, it's just information, it doesn't determine how much effort I put in. And then you also have to understand that if you take that weight and you put it on a graph and you have to zoom out over time, and you'll see that that graph is just like this, and the trend is down, but those weeks when it's going up is part of the whole process. You just got to understand that.
Your surgery was like 8 years ago at this point. What have been some of the hardest parts of maintaining weight for that long?
I'm trying to be honest here. I think that, I'm pretty lucky in the fact that I don't have to follow anybody else's diet. I could just do my own thing. So I've never had a challenge or it's never been difficult for me to maintain it. I'm very vigilant with the scale. Yeah, I weigh myself every day. I think to me that's it. It's a very important part of it. And I know a lot of people are like, don't obsess about the scale and, you shouldn't look at it every day. And I am the complete opposite. Like, I think that you should, not looking at the scale is what got me to 420 pounds. Being afraid of the scale, being afraid of that number, that's what got me there. Like, I have a trigger point, like, of number on the scale. And my trigger point is like 235. If it gets to over 235, then I need to do something about it. Like I need to change my diet, stop eating crap. I mean, I had like golden Oreos today. Like, I mean, I'm not like sacrificing it every day, but like last summer, I got up to, because I didn't look at the scale, I got up to like 247 pounds. And when I finally looked at the scale, it's kind of like, damn it, if I only would have looked at 2 months earlier, I wouldn't have had to do all the work that I had to do now to get back down to, 215, 220. So I think that you need to be accountable to yourself. And I think the scale is a big part of it. Now, again, you have to understand that scale is just information, and you can't worry about 3 pounds. You can't worry about 5 pounds. It's like, you need to look for big numbers. And sometimes, like, you can't always rely on your jeans or your clothes, because I don't know, I still have clothes that are probably a size bigger than probably what I am, because I'm not trying to buy clothes all the time. You can't always rely on the little things to kind of tell you where you are weight wise. You need to know on the scale, where are you at, you know, even if it's weekly. Okay, you're 10 pounds heavier than you were last week, or you're 5 pounds heavier than you were last week. It's fine. No problem. Next week, if we're another 5 pounds more than what we were the week before, now that's 10 pounds. Like, you need to understand where it's trending, so that way you can kind of prevent that. Nobody wants to put in all this work and all this effort to do the same thing again. We need to figure out what the issue is. A lot of times it's something very, very small. Like, for example, during that time last year, uh, I got addicted to coffee. And the coffee, it has to have cream and sugar in it, of course. I'd have coffee in the morning, and a coffee in the afternoon, and then a coffee in the evening. So 3 coffees with cream and sugar every single day. One little tweak can make a difference in where that trend line is going. So I eliminated the coffee in the evening, and I just had the 2 cups of coffee during the day, and then the weight started coming back off again. And that it didn't come off in a week, but that's the good thing about weighing yourself and knowing what the trend line is that you can kind of figure out. You don't need to starve yourself. Sometimes it's like that small thing that you're doing extra now is what's making the difference. And if you can just like learn how to eliminate that or cut it in half, like something like that is enough to get that back down to where the weight that you're comfortable at again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just understanding that you don't need to be so drastic. I think that's kind of where we all kind of have failed in the beginning, or even our whole lives, is because we're so consumed with getting that number down and getting it down quickly that we don't understand that, like, people who are thin, like, they didn't drop a ton to get there. They're not going up 50 pounds and down 50 pounds. Like, that was a slow trend that they have maintained, for many years. And that's kind of what we have to do. We have to learn about ourselves as well. Like, how many calories can our body really consume during the day to maintain the weight that we want to be at?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that I like what you said about kind of having a point, whether it's a number on the scale or maybe for some people it's a certain pair of pants that are,
Mm-hmm.
feeling tight, or basically just getting information and saying, like, at a certain point, this is sort of a flashing road sign that says you need to, deviate. The path you're on is leading somewhere you don't necessarily want to go. So let's get back on track and try to find, kind of a new way to go about things. So that makes a lot of sense. And it sounds like it's a skill you had to sort of learn being in that maintenance, or having achieved your weight loss, like learning. So I guess, what are some of the other things that stick out to you that are skills you've had to develop as you've maintained this weight after losing it?
I think, like, being excited about things too. Like, I remember, like, the first time, like, of course you buy, I would always buy clothes as you're heading down, down in weight. And, I'd buy jeans or whatever, but I would buy them like a size smaller than probably what I was at that time, thinking that was going to get lower. So that way I could kind of stretch out how long I was going to be able to wear these things. Um, But I think once you finally get down to a weight that you're comfortable with, and you buy clothes that actually fits you, it's kind of exciting to be able to, like, buy things that you actually like, or that you saw that other people wore that you feel you couldn't wear before. To me, that and it's not nothing crazy. It's just like a shirt from, like, Amazon or something like that. It's not about spending tons of money on it, but just like getting excited over that little thing of just buying something that you like, or that's something that you didn't think you could wear before, or I don't know, something that just makes you feel good wearing. I think that is something that has helped me keep it off too, is that just knowing that there's things in my closet that 10 years ago I would have never been able to wear, or and it's not even that like you can't wear it. It's just like there's hell, like there's just no hardly any options. Sometimes like when you're overweight, there's not a lot of things that are stylish for people that are morbidly obese. It's like,
Hmm.
I mean, I shopped at the big and tall store most of my life, and I'm like, damn, if they can only have get some designers in here that would design some, better clothes for these poor people. Like I feel bad that like that's how they think of us, is that we're like unstylish
They'll
people.
just wear whatever tent we chop
Yeah,
up,
whatever they'll
and
just give you, here you go. This is what we're
yeah,
gonna give you because we have a ton of fabric of this, so we're gonna make this for
right,
you. Like
right.
it's just I don't know. Like sometimes I'm like I get irritated when I go into some of those stores. Sometimes that's how they think about obese people, that we don't have any type of style or we don't want to look a certain way. I think once you're able to find your own unique sense of style, because I don't think a lot of us had that either. My friends, when they were young, they were able to experiment with like different looks and, different styles. And, you know, I was never able to get into that kind of stuff because there was no name brand cool jeans that were going to fit me, so you never get to discover who you are. And I think once you start figuring out who you are, it's so motivating to make sure you maintain that. It's exciting to like finally discover who you are,
Yeah. No, that's cool that you mentioned that. I've noticed even myself, for some reason I'm more interested in, like, I've always liked tattoos. I got a few tattoos when I was younger. I always thought, like, eventually I'll have more tattoos, but
Hmm.
I think I never did it because I never really felt like I wanted to like show off any part
Yes,
of my body. And
exactly.
so now I'm more interested in that. Like got a tattoo recently, and I'm like proud to show it off, and I'm like, it's a cool thing that almost like accessorizing my body. Like I'm more proud of my body because I feel more confidence in it. Talk about that. Like, what are, other than the number on the scale, like what are the other benefits you've experienced as a result of losing weight, and other transformations that you've had in your life?
The whole like discovering, yourself thing is like I like to do like work on cars and stuff like that. That is not easy sometimes when you're 400 pounds either, So just being able to do the things that you've wanted to do, but you've just physically couldn't do, is also motivating. I think that it's funny because I don't think it'll ever change. I am happiest just blending into the crowd and not being noticed. Like that is motivating to me, is that when I can now finally go somewhere and not be looked at because you stand out in a crowd. Like I just wanted to always like blend in with everybody else and be like everyone else. And um that motivates me too. Like I love being unnoticed for the most part. You can go to a restaurant, nobody's gonna like think anything of it, or you don't have to like avoid the booth because it's too small. The thing is that people who have never been obese never thought about, and will never think about. It's like really small things that I use to keep me motivated.
Yeah, I recently rode or drove a go-kart for the first time in years, and I was
Yeah.
like, I never would have fit in the go-kart before, or been willing to even try to fit in the go-kart, because I knew I would probably give it a flat tire or something. And so just feeling more of that sense of adventure, of trying new things, that's like such a huge benefit of losing massive amount of weight.
Yeah, I was like 42 the first time I ever rode a roller coaster. Like I wasn't able to fit in them when I was a young adult and teenager. I was never able to fit in the roller coasters, and I was able to get in one at 42 years old. And, I just remember just laughing the whole time because I was like, it was hilarious. But then afterwards, I'm kind of like, oh, I'm too old for this. My back is like broken now. But I wish I could have did it when I was in my 20s. But it just felt like I was laughing because it was like, so I don't know, it was like a freeing kind of a feeling. Like I'm finally able to do this, but I'm like 42. It's strange. But it's cool to have like things that you can experience as an adult that are still like new. Like I probably laughed because I was like I felt like a kid because it was like this is pretty cool, to be able to do something like this.
Hmm. I did want to make sure to ask you because you had posted a couple of videos about kind of your plastic surgery journey after like
Mhm.
removing some loose skin. You don't necessarily have to go through all the details. You can if you want to, but I am curious for someone who either has lost weight or is losing weight and will have to or is thinking about, what do I do with the skin after I lose the weight? Should I just learn to live with it? What should I look for in terms of if I want to have surgery and get it removed? Like what are some things you've learned having gone through that?
Okay. Yeah. So the first thing I would suggest people is if you're going through the weight loss process, and this is something that was told to me by my gastric bypass surgeon, and I think it was a huge help. He said from the beginning, you should start wearing compression shirts. He said that will help with your skin retracting as you're losing weight. So you'll buy those as well as you're going through the process because you want them to be tight and you want to wear compression shirts from the beginning and drink tons of water, just to help with the elasticity and whatnot of your skin. But I think like I had loose skin, but it wasn't terrible, like, and I think a lot of it was because of what the doctor told me in wearing compression shirts. Like my skin never had a chance to like hang because it was like being supported almost by a compression shirt. And I think that was a big help. But then, losing almost 200 pounds, there's no avoiding it. And so, do I think that you should get cosmetic surgery or plastic surgery? I think that people need to do whatever they feel most comfortable with and what they can afford. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with not having it. I think that, like there's sometimes when you like there's some people that do have hanging skin where it is affecting them and it is getting like infections and there's they have to clean themselves as certain ways and make sure that it stays dry and there is health effects to depending on the amount of skin you have. There could be some negative effects to it, but I think that I had it done again. I don't have any children, and so I don't I'm not taking I wasn't taking anything away from anybody else by doing it. Would I go into debt for it? No. Would I um you know put off buying a home or something because of it? No. Like it's not that important, but I think for me it was just another thing to keep me motivated to keep the weight off. I did that in 2021 is when I had plastic surgery done. I did a lot of research on the person doing it before I had it done. One thing I would suggest is that you make sure that whoever's going to do your plastic surgery, but that they know how to work on a body that has had massive weight loss. I think that there's a lot of people who are doing it for cosmetic reasons. Like it's a completely different thing for a surgeon to give somebody breast implants than it is to do skin removal. I think that there's different types of surgeons that you might be a plastic surgeon, but if that's not your specialty and it's not something that you do on a regular basis, you might not get the results that you're after. So I remember going to one of the plastic surgeons here and I said, I would like you to show me some pictures of some men's bodies that you have done, like before and after pictures of men's bodies. And he could not show me any photos of things that he has done on men's bodies. He shows me pictures of men before and after photos of men's bodies, but those weren't anything that he has done. So to me, it was important to have somebody that knew how to, or that had experience working on male bodies. And then the bonus would be if they knew how to work on massive weight loss patients that also were male. That would be nice too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not many people out there who do that. So after researching it, and I got flack for this too, but it ended up being very good. I actually found a surgeon who's based out of Tijuana, Mexico. And so after doing my research with that, a lot of the first thing in your mind is like, oh, Mexico, I don't have to go to Mexico to have plastic surgery. Sounds, like I'm going to die there, or they're going to take a kidney or whatever, you think those kinds of things. And because I worked in healthcare, I was kind of like, you judge it because it's like, it's Mexico, and no, I'm in, you know, Cleveland, we have some of the best healthcare facilities, blah, 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 like I don't want to like downgrade myself and go to Mexico, but it was pretty awesome. I will say that. The main thing is that the surgeon that I worked with, he it's all he does is massive weight loss patients, so that's his specialty. And then because of his specialty, he has also had the opportunity to work on a ton of men at the same time. So when I talked to him, I knew that it was a good fit because he knew exactly what the issues were and exactly how to fix them. And I could see befores and afters of things that he has done and talk to the people that he worked on. And then, yeah, I was able to like, feel confident in that decision to go with him. And yeah, that's another thing I would do again, even after plastic surgery, unless you have unlimited amounts of money, you're never going to be perfect. Never. So, like, I don't know. I still have like loose skin on my arms, like my inner thighs, like where does it end? Like I couldn't afford to have everything, done the way I would want it to be. But I just wanted to get to a point where I could feel comfortable even like taking off my shirt in front of my partner. That it doesn't not there isn't any human being that's perfect. So I just wanted to get to a point where I just at least felt comfortable with my body.
Yeah, no, I thought that's really good wisdom and experience that you've gained. So I appreciate you sharing that. We've been talking for a little bit now. I really appreciate your time
Yeah.
and have really enjoyed our conversation. I like to wrap up a lot of my guest interviews with just asking, is there anything that you wish we had talked about that we didn't get a chance to discuss yet?
Just know that no matter what you do, no matter what size you are, no matter plastic surgery, no matter what, there's always going to be people out there who are judging you for something. And the main thing is you have to remember is that you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for anybody else. And that's, what you think about you, and at the end of the day, is the most important thing. There isn't anybody that can, you shouldn't allow anybody to take any type of win that you have. Don't let them take that away from you. If you lose weight on a GLP-1 and you feel good and somebody has something negative to say about it, you know what? That's a them issue. It's not a you issue.
Mm-hmm.
Your relationships are going to be very different afterwards. Like sometimes it's, you have friends that, like I had friends that were obese, and they were kind of like, they're like your core group of friends that I've had for like a long period of time. And, like they're not really around anymore because I think that there's a lot of resentment towards, somebody essentially becoming a different person, and, like, yeah, you will be different. Your core is still the same, but because you can do things that you weren't able to do before, you are different. And eventually like the people on the outside see it first. Like they're the ones who will start seeing those changes first, and they're going to see that you're different and you act different and things of that it takes a while before you start to notice it about yourself, but it's okay. Like, we have to understand that they won't understand it, but eventually we will. Is that we are almost like relearning who we are and who we are as a as a thinner person, and figuring out what we like and what we don't like, and that's all part of the process. And you can't beat yourself up when people are judging you, people don't want to hang out with you anymore. You just have to understand that it's part of the process too. You'll find new things that you enjoy, and new people that you enjoy as well.
Mm. Yeah, that's really inspiring. I think, having interviewed a few people now that have successfully kind of lost weight and maintained it, it feels like a thread that I see throughout is just people basically having to become a new person. It is
Mhm.
like it is a transformation. You're not just having, whether they had surgery or whether they, had diet and exercise, um, or even GLP-1s, if someone is successfully moving from, consistently being morbidly obese to being consistently at a healthy weight, that's a massive change. That's such a
Mhm.
huge transformation. It's not common. It's very rare. And so that person has gone through really massive change, and they really have become, a new person in a lot of ways. So
Mhm.
it's cool to hear that in your story, and really appreciate you coming on and sharing, all of the parts of your journey. So where can people find you online if they want to learn more or kind of follow what you're doing next?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram, Life After Losing on Instagram, but my main focus is my YouTube channel. And so on there, I've had that channel for probably 3 years now. So it's like 2 years ago, I was making videos about weight loss surgery and about my experiences that way. And now I'm more focused on other people and other like celebrities, and who have inspiring stories and who have done things to pivot, and either like pivoting into like the fitness realm. Like, well, Richard Simmons was always like a fitness person, but like people like Jane Fonda and Suzanne Summers, and things like that. That way, just to kind of show people that it's not just us that have to pivot. That even celebrities a lot of times have to pivot, and discover who they are in a completely different way as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. It's you got some cool content out there. Definitely recommend people go check it out. Life After Losing on YouTube, and I'll definitely link that in the show notes, and as well as your Instagram. So, Greg, really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for talking, and I hope you'll come back.
Of course, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
If you're still here, a few quick things before we end. If you found this content helpful or valuable and you'd like to support the show, there are two ways you can do that. First, you can help grow the audience by sharing this episode on social media, or even send it directly to a friend that you think would enjoy it. Second, you can leave a 5-star review on whatever podcast app you're listening with. If you'd like to be a guest on Keeping It Off, you'll find a link in the show notes to a simple form you can fill out, and I'll be in touch. One other note, this show is for information only, not medical advice. I'm not a medical professional, so please check with your doctor before making any changes in your healthcare. Okay, that's all for now. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you'll come back and check out another episode of Keeping It Off.